Hi, everyone. I'm Georgia Kay. I am a junior history major, a career peer with the Office of Internship and Career Development. Today, I'll be giving a workshop on how to master your resume, how to make your resume fit your dream position. So let's get started. Okay, so the very first thing we want to do is differentiate what is a resume versus CV versus master resume, because they all have different audiences and they all are trying to do different things. So first, a resume is probably the one you're most familiar with. A resume is used for potential employers. So it's going to have like your professional qualifications, your work experience, and it's really going to focus on your practical experience that can show your future employer that you have experience that's relevant to what they're trying to do. And then you have a CV, and a CV is kind of less common. It's mostly used for academic positions. So it's used for things like grad school or research assistants and things like that. And it's going to focus on your educational background, certificates, like really how you're educationally trained, and less so focused on your job experience, even though that could also be included. And yeah, lastly, your master resume, which is the one that's almost never talked about. And that is a resume that is for you. It's not for a job, it's not for a research position. It's a resume that's going to really be for your own personal records. It's going to have a list of everything that you've ever done, anything that could be included on both a resume and a CV. So it's going to have past work experience, research experience, classes, all the things that you've done that might be relevant to put on either of these types of application materials. So yes, so, okay, oh, sorry. A few slides ahead. Okay, there we go. So yeah, so why do you need a master resume? Because it's something that we don't often talk about, and it's something that's definitely should be promoted a lot more. And the fact is, the master resume is for you. You have a resume that you're going to share with other people. That's your target resume. And of course, you also have your CV if you're applying for graduate school or other types of positions like that. But your master resume is really going to be something that you can use to guide you in these different application processes. Because really, you should be customizing every single application you send in, but that's completely tedious if you're always going to have to be sitting and thinking about how can I make this work every time you need to send a new resume. So this is going to be a standard format, kind of like list of everything that you've ever done, so that you can use it for your own records, use it to kind of like understand where you are and understand where you want to go. Okay, so the benefits of a master resume, there are many benefits, but these are just the top 3 that I'm going to highlight. So it saves time. That's probably the biggest pro of having a master resume, is that having a master resume will save you time when you're customizing lots of applications. So if you're in an application season, it's very good to have a master resume, because you know that you're going to be applying to different positions and you don't want to send out a cookie cutter resume to each of those positions. So you'll have a list of everything that you've ever done, even the irrelevant things that might not always apply to all of those things. And you can go back in and take out pieces that work and use that to kind of Frankenstein your target resume. And then it also helps you to fill in gaps in your professional skills. So you can look on your master resume and see, okay, well, I only have a few things in my volunteer section, or I don't have enough certificates or something like that that might be relevant for the positions that you're applying to. And it's really good to see like that evidence of like, where can you kind of like fill in, or even look at it to see like, oh, I have a lot of experience in this area. I really should highlight that more on my resume. So yeah, so it's going to help you to build up those skills and kind of like use as a career map. And then also, it reduces inaccuracies and mistakes. So when you're making your resume, if you have to sit down and kind of like make it all in one time, it really should be a process. So if you've made your master resume, you've already set that time aside to sit and really be intentional about the things that you're trying to write, make sure you have all the things that you've done. Then when you're actually in the process, you can just pull those things into your current resume without having to write it, which may lead to like mistakes, grammar mistakes, or even just inaccuracies about when did you do something. Like you might have forgot you did that job 3 years ago instead of like, a couple months ago. So yeah, it's just going to reduce those inaccuracies and make it a lot easier. Okay. So yeah, so the sections of a master resume are going to be very similar to the sections that you would have on a on your target resume. The only thing that's going to be different is that you're going to have a lot more of them, because your target resume is only one page. Your master resume is as many pages as you need it to be. So you're going to have any category that you could possibly think of putting on your target resume. So it's going to have past experience, which is the most important. So any type of work experience that you've possibly had, awards, skills, projects, volunteer work, and there are many other categories that you can include as well, like classes or other things like that that might be more relevant to you in the type of jobs you apply for. But these 5 are just kind of like a basic 5 that you want to have because they're like pretty common resume categories. So there are a few questions you want to ask before creating a master resume, because this is a really intentional document. It's a document that's really going to help you in the career application process. So you want to do a lot of that thinking beforehand so that when you're doing it, you don't have to kind of do this thinking for every single job. So the first thing is, what new skills have I learned? And these skills are really going to be talking about your hard skills. So hard skills are things like software skills. So you want to think about type of software you've interacted with in the last couple of years, even things that you might not personally think of. Like you can do research skills, so like working with sites like Galileo or WorldCat, or you can even do WordPress, because we as Agnes students, we use a lot of WordPress for class projects, or even podcast editing, like any software you might use for that. So think of like the software you've interacted with for the past couple of years and really add those, because those are really valuable skills, even if you might not think you've like proficiently hit that mark of like, oh, you can like, you know, work on it, but it's always something to include, because familiarity with these types of softwares are a boost on your application. And then also, what kind of jobs have you had in the past 5 years? Could be longer if you've had more professional experience, but as undergraduate students, most of us have been working in the past 5 years. So don't expect to have like 10 things on here, but it's just nice to have everything that you've done in when it comes to like getting paid to do a job. And then what are your biggest accomplishments? So think about things that you are really excited to hit, like even if they don't seem like big milestones right now. So whether that be your first internship, and whether that be like getting an A for a class, because that's going to guide you to understand like what are the things that excite you, and that could let you know what you want to do more of in your applications. So, and lastly, what type of positions are you planning to apply to? As I said, when you're thinking about your accomplishments, you're thinking about what else do you want to accomplish? So whether you want to work with a certain type of organization, or you want to get a job or go to graduate school, that's going to let you know like where you should be looking to fill in your experience and how your master resume can help you do that. We're a few slides ahead. Okay. So how to create a master resume. So this is like the technical side of like, how do you physically create one? So no, you don't usually need, hi Bintu. I'm just going through, but we're recording right now, but I'm currently at how to create a master resume. So I'm going to be talking about like the actual aspects of creating a master resume. Yeah, so how do you create a master resume? It's actually kind of easy, because it's not like your stereotypical resume where it's going to have a template for someone else to see. A master resume is really going to be for your own record. So you just pull up a Google Doc. Google Doc is the best way to do it, because it's actually going to save and sync, and you can use it like if you're logging in on someone else's computer, and you never have to worry about it just disappearing into thin air. Yeah, so open a Google Doc, and then you're going to pull up materials that you've used. So like resumes, cover letters, transcripts, things like that, because you don't want to just try to sit and think about it at the top of your head, because you're probably going to forget a lot of things. So pull up all those things and kind of like look through them and like make a list. And then you create sections. So sections like common resume sections. So work experience, community service, GPA, classes, everything that you could probably think of that you can kind of group into categories so you can use for your target resumes. And then you want to import all that information. So take a few hours, like put all the information that you found onto that one document. And then you're going to continue to use that document and add new things as they arrive. So if you're going to do a new internship, or if you're going to do something else, like add that to it. Just don't leave it there to just sit and collect dust. So. Yeah, so this is an example of my actual personal master resume. Oh, yeah, this is an example of my personal master resume. So these are just the first 2 pages. I actually have a couple more pages after this, but this is just like an example so you can see. But I have things on there like my current GPA, relevant classes, and outcomes of those classes. Because for me, I'm planning to go to grad school, so it's very important for me to like have all my research experience kind of like in one place. So I have like the type of research that I've done. I have conferences that I've applied, that I've gotten into as well, like because that shows like networking and things like that. Um, all the hard skills. So every type of software that I've interacted with in the past 3 years are also on there. And I have like a very short version for my work experience position, but on the other pages, I kind of go into more detail and add bullet points. And then I also have my extracurriculars. So as you can see, like you don't need a template. You can just go into Google and just start typing, and I just highlight the categories so I can note them. But other than that, like I just type them in normally. Oh, and also the things that are in blue are things that I'm currently working on, like things that I've seen in my like resume that I want to add more of. So I add those on there so I know that those are current goals to work on, like wanting to work with the National Center for Civil and Human Rights or something like that. So yes, so how to use a master resume. So a master resume, we've kind of talked about it, but it's really going to be used for your applications when you're applying to target places. So it's going to be your standard 1-page resume. You're using your master resume to feed that. So you're really going to look at your master resume and only pick 3 to 4 things that might be really important to highlight on there. So you're not going to like try to paste everything from your master resume to your target resume. You're going to look at it and be like, okay, what is this job asking for? And what do I have that's similar enough to put on my resume to highlight that? So 3 to 4 experiences that are transferable. And then you also want to have evidence. So like any sort of like accomplishments that you may have, whether that be a good review or some sort of project that you finished. You want to add those to kind of like give context and also just boost the fact that you know how to do things. Yeah, and then also you want to include hard skills. So I know a lot of us, we kind of like neglect this section of our resume. We'll just like add Microsoft Suite on there and leave it leave it forever. But sometimes Microsoft Suite isn't what the company's like their hard skill that they're looking for. It might be having some sort of experience with WordPress or having some experience with a language. It's so you really want to make sure that you're not just putting the same few skills on every single resume, but you're looking for the things that the specific job wants. Okay, if this will click. Wow, a few slides ahead. Okay. Yes, and this is a special tip that I personally have added to my master resume is including a mission statement. So this is not for your target resume. You do not need a mission statement or like a personal objective on your target resume. But if you are going to always be thinking about shaping your cover letter or interview prep, you really want to know what your end goal is. Like, and this end goal can be applicable to anything that you're doing in the future. So it doesn't have to be super specific, but it could just be that you want to work with kids and that's your ultimate end goal. So it could be like working at a restaurant or working in a nonprofit. It's going to fit for any of those things, but it's just good to know like what's driving you and how can you craft that into every application that you're putting into. So it's like Georgia studies history with a focus on women of color in the 20th century, and she hopes to go to graduate school so she can get a PhD to understand Black women's financial history. And that's super specific to me, but of course you can kind of like switch it around to what you're trying to do, just who you are, what you're studying, and how what you're studying connects to the type of problems that you're trying to solve in the world, because ultimately all jobs are solving some sort of problem.